Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this, the first in a really exciting new series, Simon Says, Let's Talk. So welcome, Simon, welcome, Tom. It's a joy to have you here at Brimscombe Mill. And I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction. This is a new in-person series by Dr. Simon Orfer, by Crack Health, the NHS, and all of us here at the Mills. And the aim is simple: to open up honest conversations about men's mental health, something that affects all of us directly or indirectly. And my name is Ed, and I'm part of the team here. And at the Mills, we are a social enterprise hub. And everything we do is about trying to rewire the local economy so that people, planet, and community can thrive. And we really wrestle with the questions of how we can live. And we spent years working with partners on creative, community-led solutions to challenges like loneliness, isolation, and poor well-being. And so this series feels like a really exciting, close fit. And tonight is the first of 5 in this series, and a portion of the seats this evening were socially prescribed by local GPs so that this could be accessible for all. And we've got NHS clinicians here tonight, if anyone would like to speak afterwards. There's just a few thank yous. Firstly, to Stephen Kinsella of the Laura Kinsella Foundation for kindly sponsoring this event so that we could film it. And thank you to Jenny Bowers for another beautiful mural, which is our backdrop tonight. And this is exciting. Simon, Tom, over to you.
Right, thank you very much. Yeah, my name's Dr. Simon Orfer. I've been a GP round here, actually in Dursley, for about 30 years. I've been an MP for about 18 months. And what we're doing tonight is Tom Walker, sometimes known as Jonathan Pye, has really kindly come down here on a packed train. He even had to stand on the train on the way down here, so that was tough. But he's giving his services free of charge. And this is about looking at comedy on prescription, which I'll explain in a bit. It's also about talking about men's mental health, and also about social prescribing and that sort of thing. Now, I've been interested in this for years, but what we're also going to do is we're going to film this and put it out on a podcast. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yesterday, we launched the men's health strategy for the UK. So Wes Streeting introduced that. I was lucky enough to go to number 10 with Gavin in the front row here, and we had a couple of glasses of wine, listened to Keir. But actually, what was interesting about it is, so the men's health strategy is quite popular with men. It's even more popular with women, actually, because women often have to harangue their men to go to the doctor. And I've seen that loads of times, but men getting marched in by wives and girlfriends. And so anyway, I'm really glad that we're all here with that. So Jonathan Pye, or Tom Walker is your real name. I'm so glad you've come here. I'm interested in comedy and how you got into comedy, actually. What was your path into comedy?
Well, I trained as an actor and I couldn't get any work.
Right.
So, and I couldn't get work for like sort of nearly 20 years, really. And I suppose the thing was, when you're in your 20s, life is all about falling over and getting back up again. But I could see 40 coming over the horizon, and I realised sort of financially and mentally it was not sustainable as a career. But weirdly, so I decided to give up acting. And the minute, weirdly, that I decided to give up acting, it was almost like the jeopardy was gone. It didn't matter what I did. So I'd had this character in my head for years, but I'd never done anything with it. And I just thought I'd decided to have a play with it, put it out on YouTube, and like the first time I ever did a pie video, I think it got like 1,000 views, which I thought was amazing because it meant people I didn't know had seen it. So I thought, oh, I'll do this for a few weeks. And I think the fourth one got 1 million views, and it really was like overnight. At no point did I think, that I'd be here 10 years later. It's been 10 years still doing it. But I thought a door had opened for me. And I think had that opportunity occurred to me 10 years earlier, I don't think I'd have run with it, because I think I'd have been a bit snobbish about it, being like, I want to be an actor. But and also weirdly, I was hitting 40 and I had zero control of my life, really. And I thought to myself, I can't control my money, I can't control where I live, I can't control my job. What can I control? And I remember I decided to give up drinking and smoking. I'm smoking again and drinking again, but I decided to give up drinking and smoking because the things that I could control was what I put in my body, and I started going for runs and whatever. And within about 3 weeks, this sort of mindset, this can-do mindset, sort of set in, and boredom as well. If you can't go to the pub, what else can you do? And that's how it was born, really.
The idea of Jonathan Pye, was that, so you said it was in your head, you're sort of angry, saying things how they are?
Yeah. I mean, originally the idea was far more broadly comic. Jonathan Pye's been described in many ways, but rarely funny. And it was more. You remember It'll Be All Right on the Night with Dennis Norden and those kind of clip shows of stuff going wrong. I remember even as a kid, it was the newscasters that were the ones that stayed with me, because there's such a formal way of being a reporter. So the switch between when things go wrong. So it was always going to be like stuff going wrong, but the first week I did it, Jeremy Corbyn had just been elected Labour leader. Right. So I did a bit about that. And then the next week, this story that clearly isn't true, but this story came out about David Cameron fucking a pig. And I just thought, you're just throwing me pearls here. So quite quickly it became political, but it was...
You're for sale.
I'm for sale.
So 45 quid if anyone wants it.
Yeah. Sorry. Cheap at half price. But very quickly I realised that people were tuning in for the politics rather than the hilarious comedic conceit. So I kind of ran with that. And then sort of the world took over. Brexit, and then Trump, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
It's been a rich theme, hasn't it?
It has. The worse the world gets, the better my career does, really. It took me a long time to get used to the idea that people aren't always watching it for the funnies. They're watching it to make sense of the world, often. And also this idea that there's a catharsis to watching Pie, because something shit has happened in the world. Donald Trump threatens to sue the BBC for £1 to £5 billion. And if you're anything like me, you're raging for a couple of days, and then you watch this video of someone. I've had the luxury of spending 2 days writing it, this beautiful Shakespearean sweary language, but you watch that and you go, yes, that's how I feel, and that's why it's shareable, because you put it on your feed and you go, what he says. So there's kind of that catharsis.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've been running this project about comedy on prescription, which is basically getting people to go and engage in comedy. We've done it in Westminster, and we're hoping to do it in Stroud as well, in libraries. And The idea, and some of the science behind it is quite interesting actually. So if you laugh, it does something for you. But if you laugh together at stuff, there's enormous surge of well-being actually that comes out. And actually, a bit of science, a bit boring, but when you laugh, your intercostal muscles release endorphins, which is one of the reasons you sort of feel good after a good laugh, actually.
Well, so if you watch a stand-up special on Netflix and it's you and your partner, even if it's the best stand-up in the world, you might laugh out loud 2-3 times. You watch that same set in a comedy club, you're going to be far more open to laughing because it's a community kind of act. But also, if you've gone out last night and there was something that made you laugh, but not just laugh, but belly laugh to the point you can't even remember what you're laughing at anymore, and that's such a wonderful thing. And it doesn't happen very often. But I swear to you, 2 days later, you're still going to be walking around with a spring in your step because of that 10-minute crying with laughter, please stop.
Yeah. And it's interesting you're saying about catharsis, because there's something sort of like the wise fool in Shakespearean stuff, and something about the comedian that says something that's funny, but it's got an element of real truth in it. And I think that's what people pick up from you. And I saw your bit about the BBC, and you're saying about Trump, and there's some elements of real truth that actually politicians aren't even allowed to say sometimes. So, I mean, that's really, I found that quite cathartic.
Well, without being really pretentious, but it looks like I'm going there, but, like the jester in olden days was the only person in court who could take the piss out of the king without getting his head cut off. So actually the jester was the truth sayer, but because it was done with a wink and so it does. It's not just comedy. I mean, satire particularly has a big role to play in any free society.
And I was thinking when I was watching it, it's that probably all of us would like an alter ego like Pi, where we can really let rip at stuff. I don't know if anyone does this on their own in the bathroom or anything, but sometimes you want to say stuff that you don't really want other people to hear, and you're brave enough to say it.
Well, it's certainly cathartic for me sometimes, because I used to put stuff out every week, and I don't kind of have to do that anymore, because I think that I've sort of needled my way into certain elements of the country's sort of consciousness, so I don't feel the need to kind of do it every week. So generally, if I am putting something out, it's because I have spent 2 days going, Trump,
Do you feel pressure to say stuff about things that have happened? Right.
Yeah. Yes. Which puts me off a lot of the time, and there are certain things that I understand why I've got into a lot of shit for not doing anything about, what's happening in Gaza with Israel and stuff like that. There are just some things that you sit down and you go, I can't find a joke here, And there are certain subjects, particularly on the culture war, that I sort of think, I'm not sure I've got enough skin in the game to stick my head above the parapet here, and that might make me a pussy. I don't know,
but politicians seem fair game to you, aren't they?
Well, you ask for it,
right?
No. I mean, quite literally, you asked to be put in the position that you've been put in, and you have been put into a position of enormous, potentially enormous power, and also a position of potential enormous change and enormous good. So no wonder all eyes are on you. I do think you sometimes do get a bad rap. I mean, whatever you think of Keir Starmer, right? I mean, it's not an easy job, right? It's not an easy job. Particularly, it's not an easy job when there is £0 in the bank. But he did ask for that job, right? He did ask for it. Yeah. So he sort of deserves everything he gets, to a certain extent. As long as it's reasonably fair, and as long as you do recognise, you go, no, they inherited a real tough.
Yeah, and one of the things as a politician, it's been quite shocking for me, because GPs are one of the most liked professions. People tend to trust GPs. Politicians are definitely at the bottom of that, and they're least trusted. But also, you get so much abuse online, and it's something that I was going to talk a bit about in terms of mental health as well, because it's a tough old world out there online, isn't it? And you probably get the same, don't you? On
Yeah. I mean, when it first started, I used to read all the comments, like, and a bit like when you're performing to a live audience, 999 people could be loving it, but it's always the guy on the third row folding his arms, watching. That's the only person you can see as a performer, right? No. This isn't a comedy gig. You don't have to laugh. You don't, and it's freezing in here. It's fine. But like online, you can have 10,000 thumbs up, but it's the thumbs down that you take with you, and certainly more and more. I mean, Twitter has always been. Actually, when I first started like 10 years ago, Twitter was actually a place where you went for, believe it or not, fairly reasonable debate. You could sort of win an argument on there or go, well, we'll agree to disagree. And, it is an absolute cesspool now. And because of who it's owned by, and, it's owned by the person that pays Tommy Robinson's legal fees, let's say no more, right? So that really is a cesspool. I about 3 or 4 years ago, made a conscious decision to step away. It's this weird dichotomy. I know that I owe my success to social media, and I know that I will owe my continued success to social media unless the BBC give me a fucking TV show. But that's, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. But for my own mental health, I just have to. I post stuff and ignore it, because otherwise you go mad. Because it's particularly as soon as Labour got in 18 months ago, I think that weirdly emboldened the right, because I think the right and the hard right and the far right in this country always felt a little bit uneasy. Even when it was Liz Truss, they felt a little bit uneasy about having a go. But now it's fair game because you're not their tribe, so I see stuff on Twitter that 5 years ago you'd have got arrested for, and probably rightly so, and I'm a big advocate for free speech, but the overt racism online now is horrendous.
I know. One of the things that I noticed was I try not to read it either. I've got a great team, some of whom are here, who read it for me, and don't let me read it actually because it's not very useful. But we did a lovely little post about a primary school that was doing philosophy training. There was a picture of me with the kids and stuff, and then all this horrible stuff came in about what a twat and all this sort of thing. And I thought, where did that come from? And it wasn't even related to the stuff.
Any reason to have a go, and you can't. But sometimes they write these sort of such a banal insult, and you go, you lost calories writing that. It's like what are you doing with your life? And you wouldn't speak to people like that in real life. It's an odd, toxic world, and it was originally like Facebook and social media. It was supposed to bring people together, and I think for a while it did. You reconnected with old friends and stuff. I mean, Facebook and Instagram and all of those, they're advertising platforms essentially, with horrible extreme content, AI slop, and we allow our 12, 13, 14-year-olds on these devices, which is insane if you think about it. I mean, we all know as adults how addictive this is. How can that have any value for someone growing up? And I mean, that's something that I think Australia have just banned it, and it seems really for someone who's all free speech, and I'm sort of on the libertarian side of things. So you'd think I would be like, hey, but I just think it has no value. And I think from a mental health point of view, I as someone who has not ever read a scientific paper on the matter, but I imagine a lot of our mental health crisis in this country is because of those kind of platforms that we all use, right?
Yeah,
we're all on.
And there is quite a big campaign around this, but it is difficult because actually there isn't really solid scientific advice. So that chap Chris Whitty, the professor who's very intelligent, he looks at all this stuff and he goes, it's not strong enough yet to show, so we have to wait till it's strong enough to. But
my attention span is in the toilet, right? Because of Instagram, you know that. I mean, I don't think you don't need that many scientific studies, and I can't believe that like kids at school are it's all done on pads, and it's all. I just find it's and socially debilitating if you're living your life online.
It's true. Well, that brings us on to, I mean, men are struggling at the moment, and as I said, some of the statistics are quite awful. Commonly cause of death under 50 is suicide. 75% of successful suicides are men, and mental health levels have really risen in men. And I just wonder, I mean, we're talking about the online environment. Why do you think, what's happening? Tell us what's happening, Jonathan Pye.
Yeah. Well, I think the online thing is a big thing, but I think that there is the effects of poverty cannot be underestimated. The worry, and the frustration, if you haven't had a pay rise in 5 or 6 years, and subsequent governments have sort of, they call it cost of living crisis, nothing really gets done. Again, because there's no money, I guess. But, that's a massive mental health issue. And of, there being no industry in this country anymore, and there doesn't seem to be any direction or any kind of hope, really. And because nothing has changed, essentially since 2008, nothing fundamentally has changed. Right. And the super rich have got richer, the rich are okay, and actually even the middle classes are being squeezed and the working classes are fucked. And it's not, there's been no fundamental change on that for a decade. So it's frustrating, you've got no direction in life, you've got no money, you can't support your family. No one in power who is sensible seems to give a shit. So no wonder, populism starts to take hold. Like the Brexit vote, which was essentially more of the same or smash things up a bit. Well, if nothing's changed for you for decades, smash things up a bit. Trump, smash things up a bit. I'm gonna burn Washington to the ground, and he has. I mean, he's so there's that sort of mental health thing, but also this massive swing to the right that we are feeling across the world, socially and politically.
Do you think that affects men more then? That swing to the right? Do you think they're more receptive to it?
I imagine the statistics sort of back that up. It does seem like a very male-dominated area.
There is Sarah Pochin. Yeah, she's.
There's lots of exceptions to that rule. Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of that, although she's played a blinder this week, which I never thought I'd say. But I suppose there's that. It's the anger thing that I think men have generally struggle with their anger more than women. Obviously, massive stereotypes and all of that aside, and therefore that's why these Andrew Tates and the Farages, but that's why they're attractive, because they're sort of, if you listen to them, it sort of sounds like there's answers in there, even though they're.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I was hearing something on Radio 4, I think, recently about what makes men attractive, and the three things that they pulled out was kindness, which clearly isn't related to any of that stuff. Resourcefulness, so it could mean rich, but it was also like, let's go to the cinema, let's do something radical. And then the last thing was, quite interestingly, being intellectual or funny. So you must be right up there then.
Well, I think, funny, definitely. I mean, a sense of humour is attractive. But that's the thing as well. Right-wingers do have a sense of humour in a way that left-wingers don't. Right. Like, we do take ourselves very seriously, in a way that right-wingers sort of. I mean, Trump can be intentionally funny, like he can make me laugh sometimes. The rest of the time, it's demented. But yeah.
Yeah, and people like Andrew Tate. Is that what's in it for why is he? Because I always watch him. I go, he's awful, and I think probably most people in the room would think that. But he's very, he's got 13 million followers, hasn't he, on social media?
I don't know what it is. I mean, there is always that sort of gym bro workout thing, and I think that's how he kind of gets them. But yeah, I don't get it. This whole kind of incel movement and this sort of, imagine being a proud, open misogynist. You know, just like such a weird phenomenon. But you know, some people love him. You know.
Yeah, no,
insane.
He's very popular, and I mean, that I suppose is effect of the internet, partly, isn't it?
It is, but also being legitimised. You know, like Tommy Robinson is. I mean, go on Twitter and call Tommy Robinson far right. You will get screwed for it. What's he done that's far right? You know, and he explicitly has the backing of the richest man in the world. So that's not a fringe thing anymore. You know, just like we thought Nigel Farage was this sort of little arsehole in UKIP, and you know, let him on Question Time once a year and be done with it. But no, he is legitimate. I think he will be our next Prime Minister. You know, I really do. I can't see how he doesn't. So
that's chilling warning, isn't it? I don't know. Well, maybe some people might support him, but I think.
Well, a lot of people do, and again, it's. I mean, the last Labour government, we won't go too far into this, but the last Labour government, literally on their podiums, it said change. Well, whereas Farage is offering change, and you will get it. That'll be the end of the BBC. Yeah, it'll be the end of the NHS. Well, but that's a change. So he's not kind of lying.
Yeah. So what about? I mean, I was thinking, what about positive role models for men? Because one of the things that I was thinking is that men, you know, we're not particularly good at hugging. I think we're getting a bit better, actually. But on a football field, you know, our heroes, they hug each other all the time, don't they? You know, when they score, they're all over each other. And it's funny that actually that's permitted there. And actually, the only time you really see men crying is at the end of a football game that they've lost, or whatever. I mean, that's not strictly true, but that seems to bring out the emotional side in men. But it's a curious thing. But usually men are much less good at sharing their feelings, I would say, and that must be a problem. I don't know what you think.
I think that has changed culturally. I think it is, and you know, let's be honest. The last 5 or 6 years, that there has been. Or maybe in the last decade, you know, we talk about mental health now a lot, and men's mental health is in, you know, the frame, which is good. But I think people are talking more and more. And like, imagine, like when I was growing up, the idea of someone having a therapist. You go, oh my God, how American! And I know a lot of people who are in therapy now, and that's sort of become fairly normal in this country. Talking to someone, imagine that, you know. So I think things are changing.
And do you think things like social skills have deteriorated, or is that just not true? I just wonder.
I don't know. I don't know many people below the age of 40. We're sort of quite good, but
some of you.
But yeah, some of us.
Yeah.
But no, I think I don't think. Most people under the age of 20, I mean, again, massive general sweeping generalisation, but, you know, they are glued to their phones all the time. I mean, if you can't sit and have a meal with your family without checking your phone, then you've lost basic social skills, haven't you? They're gone. So yeah, I think.
Yeah, you better not talk to my wife in that case.
Okay. Right.
But it's interesting.
With my girlfriend, if she's on her phone and we're eating, it's really passive aggressive, and I don't think she's ever even noticed that I do it. But I just put my knife and fork down and wait for her to get off the phone, and then I pick my it's never stopped her, but it's just a little small win for me. Watching my food get cold.
So the Jonathan Pye technique, yeah. Yeah, maybe my wife does that to me, and I've never noticed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean. Just talking about mental health. I mean, have you had? I mean, it must be quite stressful being a performer, a comedian. Actually, the idea of getting up and making people laugh for an hour, for me, would be absolutely filled me with horror, really, and I'd be nervous for days before it as well. So, I mean, do you?
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. I mean, when Pi first started, I think for a couple of years, if I'm honest with myself, I think I turned into a bit of an asshole, and I was stressed all the time. I was angry all the time, and what it was finally I'd achieved something, and the fear of losing it, suddenly I had something to say for myself, and it came so quickly that I had this, it never went away, this feeling that it will go tomorrow. So that was really stressful, and it took me a good couple of years to feel comfortable in my skin doing what I'm doing, and so that was more generally. But yes, going on tour and standing in front of 1,000 people. I mean, I've done it as an actor, I've done it, but you're with other people, right? So if you're having a bad night, you can look at them. You normally get about 30 seconds notice if you're acting with someone. You get, oh, he's about to drop a line. And then, so you can all sort of just root together and get through it. But it's me standing in a room of 2,000 people, on occasion is the most loneliest I've ever been. You are just out there on your own, and there is no safety net. And that is terrifying. And I mean, what I don't know if it's the right way to do it, but when I go on tour, I pack it into 3 months and just do night after night after night and just get it done, because I don't want to be on tour for a year, because I think it would kill me. But I mean, one tour, this was just after COVID, I went to bed after the first or second show of the tour, and I didn't get any sleep, like not a minute's sleep. And I didn't wake up the next morning, but the next morning, I had to go on stage that night. And I went on stage, and that horrible, it's really jet laggy. It's really, it actually feels a bit trippy, right? If you haven't slept for a wink. And I went on stage that night, and I did it, and I got back to my hotel, and I thought, well, I'm going to sleep like a log tonight. And the same thing happened. And it happened 3 nights on the trot. As far as my memory serves, not a minute sleep. By day 3, you are insane. You know it. You have gone completely insane, particularly those 8 hours going, oh God, just, willing yourself to go to sleep. And that's the nearest I've had to like a major mental health incident. And it would have been all right if I hadn't been on tour, but it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't on tour. But by the night 3 or 4, I was walking on stage thinking, this actually feels dangerous. I don't feel in control. And I was going insane. I literally, because the only thing you want consciously is to sleep, and there is something in your brain, there's something in your subconscious not allowing you to do it. By virtue of that, you know that my brain isn't working, right? And that was absolutely terrifying. And the only way through it, if I'm being completely honest, was Valium for 3 months.
Right.
And a very small amount that will knock me out. And the people that advised me goes, well, it's very addictive. You go, well, let's deal with that in 3 months.
That's not recommended.
No.
I like the honesty though.
But and then weirdly, the 2 days after the tour ended, I thought I'm going to go to sleep tonight. I'm not going to take anything. I know this is going to be rough for a few weeks. Slept like a log, and never had any trouble. But now I'm going on tour next year, and already these intrusive thoughts have started to come in. Go, what if the same thing happens? What if you can't sleep?
Right.
So yes, I have gone mental. If that's the
It's funny.
or that's the nearest I have gone to going completely full out. You're tearing your hair out.
Yeah, it reminds me of being a junior doctor, actually. We used to do 80-hour shifts. I don't know if any junior doctor are, by Monday morning. So you start on Friday morning, and then you're awake until Monday evening. And by Monday morning, you can't even do basic math skills. Like
But that's got to be so dangerous.
I know. They have changed that a little bit now, but we sort of went through that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, but mate, you're saving lives. I'm telling jokes.
Yeah.
So,
I know. It was worrying.
Who's the real hero?
Yeah, well, thank God they've changed that. But I wondered, in your life, have you got ways of relaxing? Have you got a sort of, I know some people go swimming or running or, I don't know, sit in a bath or what sort of techniques do you use?
I mean, exercise is good. I've got a shoulder injury at the moment, and I haven't been able to exercise for a couple of months. Not that I'm a gym bunny or anything, but and I found that really difficult not to have that outlet. Meditation is good, but really difficult to keep up. But also, I did hypnotherapy a few times for smoking, and I've seen this guy about anxiety, and I've got a tape that I listen to quite regularly. It is incredible how effective hypnotherapy can be on these things. I don't know if that's an NHS-y kind of thing, but have you ever prescribed hypnotherapy for anything?
Yeah, no, I have actually, and I think all those sort of things can be useful. I think one thing about it, and what's interesting, is that what works for Tom Walker ain't going to work for the next person. That's something you really learn as a GP. There's different remedies for different people, and if that works, and I think some of those digital remedies can be really good. If it's you can just download it off the internet and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's really positive. But some people hate it as well, and they need talking. So talking, I think, is another thing. Do you find talking it out with your girlfriend stuff when you get stressed? Does that help or not?
Yeah, and I did go to a therapist for a while, which was kind of, again, just trying to come to terms with this success that was sort of thrown at me and trying to get better at coping with that. And then I happened to be seeing him when I had this sleep problem, and that was really useful to be able to sit down and tear your hair out and just go, I think I'm going mad, can you help me? But weirdly with therapy though, they don't, the only help they'll give you is allowing you to say it. I think I went into therapy going, I assume after session 4 I've got a 10-point bullet points of how to change my life and make it better, and it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Like a spreadsheet of shit to do to make life better. No, it doesn't work.
Well, one of the things that got me into because I've been using arts and stuff in the GP surgery, and one of the things was when I got stressed, I used to write really crap poems. And it was just a way of getting rid of those thoughts.
That sounds
really
ghastly.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't want to read them. But they were quite therapeutic. A couple of them are brilliant. Of course,
Yeah.
No, they were quite sort of therapeutic in that way. And I know there's a member of the audience here who's also a ceramicist, like my daughter is as well. And actually working with clay can be, it's just all those sort of, people find different ways of relaxing.
I was in Hamleys recently, buying some Lego for my niece, and there's loads of Lego that's really like for adults, right? And you can kind of look at it and go, oh, Christ's sake. But my girlfriend did something, and I bought her a present, and I bought her a Lego, it's like an old movie camera, and it was like the most fun just to spend an afternoon like creating something, but you don't have to be good at Lego because you just have to follow the instructions, right? But you're using your hands and you create this thing and you go, oh, I get it. It's something really to be able to sort of switch your. Well, that's why exercise is good. But something that doesn't switch your mind off in an AI slop Instagram kind of way, but something that focuses your mind on something where there isn't room to be thinking about all the shit in your life.
No, and that's something called flow, which the psychological concept where if you really concentrate on something, it allows your brain to flow. I think it was just described by some Hungarian psychologist or something. But it's really true, isn't it? What about making IKEA furniture? Does that do it for you?
I'm quite good at that. I'm quite good at it, but no, I wouldn't. I like a flat pack. I do, yeah. But
don't you get great satisfaction about?
Yeah,
the
I
desk?
made that table. It's like, no, you didn't. You just did that with an Allen key.
And I was thinking as well, so one of your mates having a hard time, what sort of stuff, what would you try for them, or would you walk away? Or I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't, but I'm just wondering what sort of ideas you had for helping someone that's clearly having a hard time. Maybe they've had some stressful life event
Well, it depends whether they want help or not, right? My friend always said this to me, that I'm really shit at answering phone calls and emails and texts and all of that. I'm terrible. My family hate me for it, but they've got used to it. But I'm just awful at it, and it's something I will work on when I hit 60 or something. But my friend said, you're fucking useless unless there's a crisis. And then you can always rely on Tom to step up and sort of be there. And you go, well, that's to me more important than checking in with mum once a week on the phone. It's like, if you need me, you know where I am. So I think my friends know that I'm there. I think listening rather than anything else.
Yeah.
Just, is everything all right? Let's go for a pint. And also it's sometimes like, that a friend's in a bad place, you go for a pint with them, don't push it, just wait for them to say something and then you can, open into it. But it's always different if a mate goes, oh, can we go for a pint because I've had a shit week? Or at what point do you intervene with someone?
Yeah.
That's always a difficult one.
Yeah,
because it's a good mate or it's a family member and you go, I've been a bit worried about you. That can sometimes be the worst thing to do,
I think it's interesting what you're saying, because as a GP, you think it's all about knowing the science and stuff, but the main skill in being a GP is listening. And you actually can teach people to listen better because actually we're not very good at listening. So, well, some people are very good, but you can learn how to do it, I think. But you're right, actually, if you try and go, what you need to do, mate, is get a job and, or find a girlfriend or, get out more or something. That never helps anyone, does it, really?
Well, you should go for a run. Someone's suicidal, go swimming. It's just not, it's not, no. It's a difficult one to sort of get right, I think. Yeah.
And the other thing I was thinking was that I think maybe men aren't as good at this as women, but you sometimes get little clues that someone's not happy. And I don't know, I think a lot of us just sort of glide over it because they don't want to go there. And I think they're the little clues that you've got to pick up, really.
There was a really good advert, you must have seen it, that was on a few weeks ago. It did the rounds on social media, and it was two lads going to the football, and you could tell that one of the lads was a bit depressed, but every time his mate asked him a question, he'd go, yeah, I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. And then after the football match, his mate turns around and goes, is everything all right? And his mate goes, yeah, I've had a really bad week. And they walk off. And you kind of, it's finding that way in to go, you just don't see yourself.
I think that's really good. I mean, that's one of the best things you say, because I think it is right that we have to pick up on those clues. Because in medicine, they call hidden agendas. So someone coming in with a sore throat, but actually they drop a little clue. And if you miss that clue, the whole thing's been pointless. So, and that's interesting about football as well, because we do this thing, football on prescription locally, where doctors can prescribe going to Forest Green. And I don't know if you ever watched Forest Green, sometimes it can be very depressing. I remember last season we were 6 minutes from getting to Wembley, and then Southend scored, and then they went on penalties. And I was going, how is this in any way good for anyone?
Yeah.
But actually, it's because you sort of go with someone, isn't it? And it's that connection. And I think actually, excitingly, the Premier League are putting a bit of money into this. They got plenty. So.
I mean, you're talking to the wrong person, because I really couldn't give a shit about football. But what is interesting about that is I sometimes hear blokes in the pub talk about football, and it's one of those things, if you're really into football, you can fill a whole night of going, in 1973 when they won 2-0 and that offside and then blah blah blah, and if you know it well enough, you can always fill the time with unimportant crap without ever actually having to talk about anything. And I'm sort of, my version of that is if I'm with a mate and it's like, oh, I've seen any good films recently? And then we can just spend the whole evening just chatting about films. And then you go, and it's weird, like you go back to your girlfriend and you go, how's Mark? I don't know really. I know he's seen the new Frankenstein movie, but I don't know how he is. What do you mean, how is he? Whereas I think, again, with all these sweeping, very gendered sort of sweeping observations, but I think women tend to not just talk about football, movies, or clothes and makeup. I think that there is the sort of conversations they have are probably more conducive to being more open about your emotional state.
No, I think that's right. I still play a bit of five-a-side football, so I'm really... but what's interesting, what you say, is that another great example, football's great for some people. Some people absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
You don't want to go anywhere near it. But I play five-a-side with a bunch of blokes, and my wife said, so what does Phil do then? And I'm going, I've got no idea.
No idea.
We've never talked about his job even.
Yeah.
And we go to the pub every week, and she goes, well, why don't you just ask him? And I was going...
It's too late now.
Yeah.
It'd be embarrassing.
He's gone somewhere else. That we've got about sort of 10 minutes left.
Oh, wow, that was quick.
Yeah, no, it's going swimmingly, isn't it, in that way? But no, I was quite interested in your relationship to pie as well, because it's quite Tom Walker, and you've got this other person. So do you ever dream that you are Jonathan Pie?
No.
Like that?
Oh yeah, no. I've never had a dream as Pie. Interesting. My relationship with Pie. There have been times where it's been a love-hate thing, right? I can't deny this wonderful thing that happened to me. This wonderful piece of luck. It was the right place, the right time, and I wouldn't have a career without him. And I've played, huge theatres, across the world. Such a much better career than I could ever have hoped for as a jobbing actor. And yet, the pressure of me being in charge of it all, right? No one is really begging me for the next Pie video. If I don't make myself do it, it won't happen. No one's asking me to do it. So there's this sort of constant, I'm constantly beating myself up about, you must do more. You see something really shit happen on the news that would affect anyone. I've just got this added weight on my shoulders of something awful has happened that I have an opinion about that I think is worth airing, but you kind of go, people are expecting something from me. That not only has something awful happened, I'm expected to comment about it, and that's sort of quite a pressure, really. And I find writing horrible. It's a horrible job. It's like I know some people that sit and I'm a writer. Well, I get up at 9 and I write a few pages, and then I have lunch, and then I write another few pages. I can look at a blank screen with the cursor doing that for days, going absolutely. So it is like getting blood out of a stone, and that's really frustrating. And this year I kind of made a decision. I have done a series on BBC Sounds called Jonathan Pie, which has been really successful and wonderful. But when I finished the last series of that, I realised that I'd just fallen out of love with him. And I'm going to take the summer off, and I'm just going to not put I'm not going to put pressure on myself to do anything. And it's been really useful because I kind of had 3 months of doing absolutely sod all, really. The luxury of it, right? But now I've started writing again, and I'm starting to write a new live show. And to sell a live show, I have to put content out. That's kind of the way it works. So I've got to get back on that horse. But I kind of had to take that step back. And really, in my heart of hearts, I still want to be that actor that I always wanted to be. But I have come to terms with the fact that if I'm lucky enough to ever get an obituary, Jonathan Pie is likely to be top line, right? And you go, okay, that's cool. But I would like to have other opportunities. But it occurred to me this summer, there was a few weeks where I was kind of waiting for the phone to ring. And you go, I remember this. I spent 20 years waiting for that phone to ring. And it didn't. So you've got to get out of that. So I suppose the point I'm making is I've come to realise that love him or hate him, me love him or hate him, he is my ticket to keep doing other stuff as well as him. And as long as I can find that balance, I do love him, but I suppose the thing is there is an inherent mistake by my natural audience, is that I am a politico. I'm playing one, right? I don't care as much as he does. You know what I mean? I'm not the guy down the pub. I am these days, because if one of you meet me in the pub, you'll go, oh, hey, you Jonathan Pine, what do you think about Keir Starmer then? Right? So of course I can talk about politics in the pub, but that's not I'm not him. I'm not the ranty guy down the pub.
Yeah.
So it's been sort of a weird thing to get used to, of people thinking my opinion matters for anything. You know?
Well, that's great. And I was thinking, one other thing I've always wanted to ask you this, really, it's about the comedy. And I heard you, again, on a Radio 4 programme, but comedy is a really subtle thing, because what was funny, like Little Britain, for example, as a comedy show.
Well, it was never funny, but but it was acceptable.
It was acceptable, but it was quite offensive, wasn't it? And that's what I'm interested in. How, in a way, so if we're too careful with comedy, we might lose the funniness of it. And you're clearly. You rant and rave, and where do you think the line is? I mean, in terms.
Yeah, I mean, with Little Britain, for example, it has not aged well, should we say? But all comedy is of its time, and no one was batting an eyelid when this was on BBC One primetime ad nauseum for many years. But I don't think it was deliberately offensive. It was deliberately grotesque. It was a comedy of the grotesque, which doesn't. Like I said, hasn't aged well in the last 15 years, because sensibilities change very, very quickly, and sometimes they change so quickly it's difficult to keep up. But the comedy's got a really important part to play, particularly like when you warm up, right? If in a warm-up gig, you're literally there to kind of go, how far can I push it? And particularly when you're warming up, you want to get the wrong side of it, so that you go, well, I'm going to have to pull that back because I completely lost the crowd there. But George Carlin famously said that a comedian's job is to find where the line is that you shouldn't cross, and the comedian's job is to gently step over it. Now, sometimes comedians gleefully leap over it, and that's part of their USP. But I think comedy's always seems to be on the front row of that kind of free speech culture war. It's what happened. It was with the Jimmy Kimmel thing recently. Suddenly all these newspapers were ringing me up for a comment. And you go, I'm clearly the free speech and comedy guy, because I've sort of stood up for Jo Brand when she suggested throwing acid in Farage's face, because I thought it was clearly a joke, a very tasteless one. But I also stood up with, I don't know if you know this story of the case of the guy who taught his pug dog to do a Nazi salute. Really gross. It was really gross. But he did go to prison. He was arrested, and he's a criminal. That was the Scottish courts. So there's some free speech laws in Scotland that are pretty draconian, got to be honest, and some of the hate speech laws here. So I'm rambling, aren't I? But
no, it's good. So there's a sort of edge, and you can play.
But you can always. It's like we're the canaries down the mine, really. You can always kind of see where the culture's going when. If you end up in the Daily Mail for saying an offensive joke, the chances are you're probably on the right side of history. But if you and actually. But it always used to be the Daily Mail and Mary Whitehouse. But these days it's the Guardian just as much as the Mail, going, oh, can't say that. So we've sort of gone full circle. Because I think liberals and the left, of which I am part, but the one thing that we have got wrong is we have gladly handed over free speech to the far right. I think, and they kind of. They feel like they have an ownership of it, and that it used to be a liberal belief, you know, in free speech and stuff like that.
It seems to me, yeah, free speech depends on who you are, what you consider to be allowable.
And what you personally agree with,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, like comedy is a case in point. I remember this was way before I became a world famous comedian. But me and my friend, we went to see Frankie Boyle, who's a bit Marmite, right? You either love him or loathe him. You know, it might not be to your taste. In the same way, Ricky Gervais might not be to your taste, might not be. But we were watching Frankie Boyle, and he said something that was utterly, utterly awful. And I howled with laughter, and I looked to my left, and my friend was going, oh, God, oh, God. 2 minutes later, Frank Boyle said something, and I thought he'd really overstepped the mark with that one. I was just, oh, God. And I looked to my friend, and he was bawling, you know, he was howling with laughter. And it was like it was a light bulb moment for me. Ah, yeah, it's objective, isn't it? Subjective. It's whichever adjective it should be. That's
a great answer. No, we're amazing. That's an hour up actually. But look, for you know, it's just really interesting how comedy. What I like about comedy is that you take a situation and then you look at it in a different angle, and it makes it funny. And actually, that's what we do in psychology as well, isn't it? You take a normal thought process and say, well, think about it differently, and that's what's quite interesting.
But what's also really important about comedy, particularly if you're talking about stuff that might be triggering for people, for want of a better word or something, but it's the thing. You can't really, you can't fake a laugh, really, right? And the example I always give is at school. I was quite a naughty kid, but I was quite good academically, so the teachers sort of let you get away with it. But the trick at school was also to be openly offensive, right? But make sure if you are going to be offensive in front of the teacher, make sure it's funny. Because if the teacher laughs just before they give you the bollocking, they've lost all power because they've laughed, right? And it's the same with difficult subjects that you might not want to touch on, or it's the best way to change someone's mind, I find, because quite often in my live tours, I always think the first half hour or so is what I would call the low-hanging fruit, Trump, the Tories, all of that. And then the second half is me holding up a mirror to you bastards for letting them get away with it. And you can sort of see an audience sort of freeze up at that. But if you can make them laugh, either at themselves, then that truth is undeniable, right? Because you might be telling them an uncomfortable truth, but as long as you make them laugh in the process, that information is far more likely to go in than it coming from, you know, a lecture or your MP or your doctor or, you know, or whatever, you know, it's going to go in.
Oh, well, that's a great place to stop. So comedy is a mirror, really, that we can look and laugh at ourselves. So that's fantastic. Can I just thank a few people for tonight? First of all, fantastic people at the Grace Network that's provided this room, and they've been incredibly willing and enthusiastic. So thank you for that. Stephen Kinsella, who gave us some money. He's one of these patriotic millionaires who's actually asking for wealth taxes.
Is he one of the ones on the bus?
Yeah, he was on the bus.
Yeah, there was a bus this week.
So he's a local person, a really good person. And also Lou, I don't know where Lou is, she Crack Health. We're working together to produce this comedy on prescription. That's fantastic. There's Jess from the long table as well, which I must mention. My fabulous team, I won't name who you are, because I don't want to do it. And have I forgot anyone else? I don't think so. And
I'm here.
Yeah. I've got your name at the end here. Yeah. So look, Tom, you're so generous with your time, because I know you've got a tour coming up and everything like that. You've had to stand up on the train all the way down here. Can I say thank you for coming, and I hope you get a seat on the way back as well.
Thank you.
You're right.
Thank you.
The NHS have also really supported this, and it's the first time we've ever done this as a comedian on stage talking about health, really, and also with a prescribed as well as a paying audience. So this is a really unique experience. Now, this part of the show is where you get involved now. So do you want to have a couple of minutes, and if you've got any questions, if you could hand them to the end? Okay, quick one. Is misandry a thing? So I guess this is it's the same as misogyny, but it's again
The other way.
against men. What do you think?
There was a thing on the news the other day, and it was to a man doing a report about men's mental health, and it flicked back to the studio, and the woman presenter just went, "Bet that report was written by a man," and it was like how the tables have turned, because like 20 years ago that would have been the other way around. I think there is a problem with, we hear it a lot, toxic masculinity, and I'm not saying it's not a thing, but you do hear it a lot. I think there are a lot of young boys who do not know what their place is in the world because well, no, I nearly said particularly young white men. I don't think that's true, actually. But there are a lot of sort of young white men that are just completely left behind, as well as obviously other ethnicities. But yeah, I think there is a thing, and there is this thing which is, again, and I know it is a thing, but it is used often as a bit of a catch-all, the patriarchy, and it is a thing, and it is a systemic thing, but I'm not sure how useful it is to solve some issues.
Yeah.
Lost the room on that one.
No, that's good. And have you got any tips?
Cab.
No, that's good. Have you got any tips for growing more emotional and meaningful relationships as men? I think we sort of...
Gay porn. I didn't really understand the question. I don't.
Well, no, I think I understand it. I think it's more about, you know, what we were saying about noticing those little glitches of doubts and maybe just asking how someone is.
I think that, like I say, I think that is sort of, I think the dial is moving on that societally.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Do you want to do one? I'll do another one. It's great.
How would we all benefit if everyone in the NHS worked full time? I don't know if that's a jibe at you for being a GP, for being a two-job Johnny or whatever they call it.
I think half of us be really struggling with our mental health, actually. Yeah, I don't know. I think there is a drift to more part-time work. I don't know what you think about that. I think in a way it's quite healthy for people to have a bit more time off if they can afford. On the other hand, can the country afford it? I don't know.
Also, I'm not sure how healthy this. I understand healthy life-work balance, but I know loads of people that just work from home now and maybe go into the office once a month. I don't think that's healthy. I know it's a pain in the arse getting on a train and having to fucking stand, but I don't think it helps productivity, particularly if you work in an office where it is perhaps there is an artistic bent to it, or if if it's a team building thing. I'm just not sure how much you can do on Zoom. And if you're working online and everything has to be a meeting, as opposed to just going over to Jeff's desk and going, "What do you think of that?" No, you're right. But that is a 40-minute Zoom call with, so I don't think it's right for productivity. And I also don't think, I think it creates loneliness as well. Some of the best not acting jobs I've had, a really good office environment is such a cool, fun place. Even if you hate your job, just you meet some really lovely people.
And in mental health terms, actually, we're a social species. We need to have each other around, and Zoom isn't quite.
No,
enough.
it's horrible.
Not all the time. No. Okay, quick one here. With Farage suddenly being a viable candidate, have the left lost the war by adopting the tactics of the right?
If you're talking specifically about this immigration thing, right, and I'm probably not going to make many friends with this, the reality is that Reform have moved the dial on that. That's the reality, whether you like it or loathe it. The reality is that vast swathes of this country, immigration is top of their list of priorities. You might think that is an erroneous way. It's certainly not top of my list of priorities, but you have to understand that whether it is because they watch GB News and read the Daily Mail, that is their priority. Labour do not have a hope in hell's chance and our immigration system is broken. it is fucked. It has been massively underinvested by. So if you're talking specifically about that, I'm not a fan of a lot of the details of what she's done, but they had to do something. They had to do something radical. And you'll notice that the Conservatives are trying to, are actually sort of in cahoots with them. They just need to get fucking reform out. I suppose my answer to that is I understand why they're doing it. I don't necessarily agree with the details of this, but you could have gone the other way, but very quickly going the other way, you just end up calling Nigel Farage and everyone is thinking of voting reform a racist right-wingers, and that doesn't help.
I don't totally agree with you on this. I think that I think the problem with the reforms, I've been a bit critical of these actually. Sorry, I'm the politician here. I think that they ain't going to stop the boats. That's the trouble, and I think that both the fact that people are coming on boats, which is dangerous and inhumane, and also that it's a visual queue all the time. People talk about the boats. That's about 5% of immigration is coming over by boats. So I don't think it's going to stop the boats. And I think the other thing is deporting kids. Not a good look.
It's gross.
Is it? So
it's gross, but it is a massive, and it is also really interesting that for the last 10, 15 years, if you want a Home Secretary to announce something gross, just make sure they're brown. And I'm not trying to be controversial with that, but it's, when it's the only time I've ever known anyone get up at the dispatch box when the Home Secretary got up this week and used the words fucking P word, right? I mean, and she fucking shut that guy up from Lib Dems like that because she goes, I'm not racist because I've been called an effing P word. All my life, so how can I be racist? I'm not sure that necessarily stands up logically to a huge amount of scrutiny, but it does give them a certain amount of bulletproofness. You wouldn't get a white man getting away with what she announced today, I don't think, unless it was Nigel Farage, of course. I've got one for you. Yeah. What has Labour done to improve mental health in men? What have you achieved?
Well, we've got this new strategy, right? And what that does is it's about getting supporting men to talk more. It's also about talking about alcohol and drugs, so that type of stuff, because that is much more prevalent in men. So we are just starting on our mental health strategy. So it's one thing that I think we're going to. So we've also got a women's health strategy, by the way, as well. And I think that's the right way to go. Whether we've actually achieved anything yet, I don't think we have, but I'm hoping in 2 years we will have achieved something, and that will be about promoting men's mental health and getting them to talk more openly about it. Yeah. He doesn't look impressed, does he?
Well, no, I suppose it's, like I said at the start, that will help, but pulling people out of poverty might do more.
Yeah. No,
Just
I
saying.
think, I totally accept that. I'm going to swiftly move on.
Yeah, good idea.
From a man's point of view, how can women support the mental health of a partner? So that's quite interesting.
Get back in the kitchen.
Right.
Next.
God, I'm glad I'm not you on that one. That'd be all over the Stroud News and Journal. So clearly, I don't agree with that. But
let's say that.
Again, it's listening, isn't it? Listening to people's concerns and being interested in them, I guess. Okay, here we are. Jonathan Pye as a character has become more nuanced and a reflection of men's mental health challenges. As a conscience, was this a conscious process? Would you agree with it?
Say that again. Repeat that again.
So Jonathan Pye's become a bit more nuanced as he's got older.
Well, yeah, I think. Should I tell you what I think's happened to him as a character, which maybe gives him a bit more nuance? Is he started off as angry, like really angry, and I think he's more jaded now. So he doesn't blow his top as much as he used to. It's more just like and therefore that kind of. But I hope he's always been nuanced to a certain extent, because whilst you had the Tories and you had Trump, which was kind of, like I say, low-hanging fruit, I was from quite early on having a go at the left for being completely useless at winning elections, and the left for being obsessed with identity politics over and above anything else, like inequality, and obsessed with diversity as long as it's not diversity of opinion. So you know, I think I've chosen my targets fairly wide.
Well,
I mean, the problem is I get when someone goes, I don't agree with you on that, I'm never listening to any of your stuff again. You go, no, well, we're allowed to. I'm not always going to be 100% right. So with Call Jonathan Pie, which is the radio show that I've done for BBC Sounds, it was a joy because it's more of a sitcom. And therefore, writing monologue is really difficult, because if I'm writing a 5-minute monologue, I spend most of that time trying to figure out what the arguments against the point I'm making will be and trying to cover all those bases so I don't get all the shit right. The beauty of Call Jonathan Pie is he's in a situation with other fictional characters. So I can make him wrong because there's always someone to walk in and tell him why he's wrong. He can overstep them. It's beautiful because any joke I write that I think, oh, that's a bit near the mark, you go, well, he can say it as long as somebody tells him off for saying it. So you can have your cake and eat it. And you can explore some tougher subjects that you can't do in a 3-4 minute monologue. So yeah, that was a real joy. And finally, to make it really clear that I am not this man. He is clearly a fiction by virtue of the fact he's surrounded by all these other fictional characters. But it was really lovely to be able to put him in a room with other people with different worldviews, and like I say, make him overtly wrong.
So we also got a question about that. Did you have problems getting any content past the BBC? Did you have to cut anything out? When I first wrote the first pilot, I went through it and I did what I call a fuck pass, and I go through the script and get rid of some of the unnecessary swearing, or you go, let's just beef that up a bit, because you know, sometimes fucking idiot will work, but sometimes thick as mint will work better, and you don't have to swear with it, right? So you'll do that. Anyway, I sent them the script for that, and they were like, "Where's all the swearing? We want all the swearing. I mean, this is what we want." I have to say, the people at Radio 4 and BBC Sounds, particularly Radio 4, whatever you think about the BBC and whatever's going on with the BBC at the moment, it is the least censorious channel possibly in the world. They grab talent, or in my case, sort of half semi-talent, but they decide that they want you, and they trust you to let you get on with it. There's a guy there, and that's for compliance, and normally you'd think, oh, imagine getting notes from a guy that's compliance. He's amazing, Roger, he is called, and these notes are amazing because it's like, I'm not sure you can justify that editorially. However, if you make it clearer here, I think we'll be able to get away with that. And actually having, and when I've done some stuff for the New York Times before, having the New York Times or the BBC mark your homework, I think can only make it better. But I don't think, if there is something where I'm libeling someone, I'm glad that I've got the BBC lawyers to say that. So I don't think there was some, I will always fight my corner. There were occasionally notes about taste to which I'd go, no, I think I can justify it. So no, in answer to your question, there remains to work with. What I would say is I'm trying to develop something for BBC comedy television. That's a whole different story. That's a whole world of pain, because it's radio doesn't have quite. It does. I mean, radio doesn't even have a what do you call it? Watershed.
The watershed. And I got into trouble recently. This was not my idea, but they redid Call Jonathan Pie at the 6:30 slot on Radio 4, which I can publicly state I didn't think was the greatest idea, and I'm not sure it was appropriate for that time. But to give them their due, they were really, for want of a better phrase, really pushing the envelope there. They want a new audience to come and listen to it because they think the work is quality. And they might have got it wrong in that particular instance, but honest to God, if for nothing else, Radio 4, you should try and keep the BBC, because it
I
really
agree with
is
that.
free and fairly fair.
There's two things I'm really proud about this country, actually, the BBC and the NHS, two three-letter abbreviations. But
Well, if you think about like the royal family, right, which you can either love it or loathe it, right, but I'm of this sort of on the fence thing. You go, on paper, that sounds absolutely fucking ridiculous. And yeah, I'm sort of glad they're there. And in a weird way, weirdly, our constitution is actually pretty fucking sturdy because of it, because there's this kind of weird stopgap there, weirdly, this sort of unwritten constitution. What do we call it? A constitutional monarchy. No one's ever worked out what that really means, but it's sort of a fairly stable, up until the last decade, a fairly stable way of
I remember
running.
in the Thatcher years,
Yeah.
Prince Charles was the main opposition, wasn't he?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Anyway, okay, a couple of quick fire ones. What do you think of Ricky Gervais's comedy? You don't have to answer that if you don't want.
Look, I mean, broadly, I'm a big fan of Ricky Gervais. I occasionally listen to his live work, and I think if you're going to write a set piece about a subject that is potentially divisive, you better have something to say for yourself. And I'm not sure always with Ricky, with his live work, that he backs up a nasty joke with the point he's trying to make. I'm a big fan of his, and if he listens to this, I love you, Ricky. But I understand why that question is here, because I don't think any subjects should be off the table for comedy, but occasionally a little bit of humility with certain subjects might suit you better.
Great, okay. I'm just going to fire through, and I'm really sorry, we're not going to have time for all of them, but who inspires you? That's the next question. That's a tricky one, isn't it?
When you're Jonathan Pye, I mean, just look in the mirror. Well, Coogan is obviously an inspiration to me, right? Steve Coogan. Obviously, Pye wouldn't exist without Partridge, without riding on Partridge's coattails. And also, I aspire to have the sort of career that Steve Coogan has had, i.e. he's managed to shake that character off and can put Partridge on when he feels like it, but he can also go and do some amazing acting work, that extraordinary drama about Savile or whatever, and he's sort of broadened his horizon. So it's kind of inspires. God, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. I would say, this is really boring. As a politician, though, Tony Benn was the best person I ever heard talking.
Yeah.
And proper left-winger, and really stuck to, well, he was a lord, wasn't he? And he lost all that crap. But he was really, I thought, most inspiring speaker that I
Well, that old idea of oratory, you see some of his old speeches of him standing up, particularly about the Second Gulf War, but there's a few there about poverty, and you kind of go, in the same way, I'm sure he has the same sensibilities as Jeremy Corbyn had. The problem with Jeremy Corbyn was he was sort of useless public speaker, really. I've got to be honest, like lacking in. I loved the idea, and then about 6 months in, I was like, there's just no charisma. It's like a dry cake for me, And he proved twice that he was almost electable, but he was unelectable. And
right. That's fair
as far
enough.
as I understand.
Have you got?
How did we get onto Corbyn?
I don't know.
Sorry.
Have you got? Okay, the cruelty in politics, global and national, is affecting everyone's mental health. Does comedy distract from the need for change or help to demand it?
And what was the opening of that?
The cruelty in politics is become more widespread. Do you think politics helps, or the comedy helps, or?
I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, if you look at someone like Trump, it's really difficult to satirise Trump, because all you have to do is go, look what he just said. He just called a female journalist, what was it, quiet piggy. There's no joke you can make about. You can't use hyperbole with Trump, because he's just hyperbolic in his own.
Well, here's the next question: is Trump the perfect mould of masculinity? And if not, who is?
Well, no, he's a fat cunt. But I don't know. It's weird. There's this sort of modern masculinity that kind of fey masculinity is really in with who played Bob Dylan. What's his name? The actor Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
That seems to be the new version of masculinity. That metrosexual kind of thing, as opposed to big and butch. And I'm quite glad that rather fey version of masculinity's in. He says, crossing his legs.
One from a woman. Do you think
One from a woman?
Yeah, well, it says, with sympathy.
They can write now.
Yeah. And I got a little kiss as well, so that's nice. That's what women do. Just little things like that really make a difference. Do you think men ever envy women's friendships and communication style?
Men ever envy women's?
Women's friendships and their communication style.
Yes, but I also think women maybe envy the other way round as well. Well, maybe. I don't know. I think there is something nice about going to the pub and sort of catching up, but not in a catching up, let's talk about movies and football, and I don't have to hear your fucking psychodrama. And that in itself can be kind of just as much of a relief as me sitting there for an hour talking about how shit my relationship is. Actually talking about something else and forgetting about it might be just as useful. But yes, I think there's probably a little bit of envy both ways, maybe.
That's good. Yeah, we can learn both ways.
I mean, there's nothing better than occasionally sitting down with 3 women and just hearing them go. And you're just like, fucking hell, this is amazing. And also like this idea that men are filthy and women aren't. Right, me sat to dinner with my mum and my sister, I have to stop them sometimes. Go, oh, you're grossing me out. They are disgusting. So, women's conversations can be a lot more fun.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay, look, look, that was the really good questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them, but we're going to finish now at 8:30. Again, look, a couple of people that I didn't thank. So Ed and Joe from Grace Network, thank you for that introduction. As I say, the long table is such an inspiration. So, yeah, more strength to you guys. And also, I don't know if Hannah Gorf's here. She's NHS Gloucestershire. She's always pushed and believed in social prescribing. She's an absolute force for good, and we're really lucky to have her. Many of you probably don't know she's there, but she's probably affected your lives in some way. So thank you, Hannah. But again, Tom, you've come all the way from London. Thank you very, very much. That was really entertaining.
Pleasure.